Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives.
Thrill me.
Send more cops.
Werewolves of London. Now, I don't follow trends. I like to think I am ahead of the curve. I'm so ashamed, for it's Halloween, and we've waited all year for this. It brings out the true horror host in me. I am the old ghoul. And this is Old School Reviews. Got fake blood mark. Welcome to Halloween Havoc 2018. All this month long we shall be celebrating the macabre, the morose, and the murderous. I want to start our festivities off slowly. Build throughout this month as we come to the crescendo, the cavalcade of horrors I have in store for you, my friends. So let's start adding numbers to this body count as we start with the only vampire comedy that matters, period. What We Do in the Shadows. I know you were probably expecting something terrifying and blood-curdling and gory, but no way, man. Everybody else always talks about the standard horror movies, dude. I want to talk about What We Do in the Shadows. Now, many films have tried and failed miserably at poking fun at Nosferatu and the creatures of the night. And in my opinion, none of them have ever exceeded ever. This movie came out and immediately became one of my all-time favorite independent underground movies. Because this movie's already attained cult classic status, I would think. I mean, it only came out a few years ago. But this wasn't like a mainstream movie, very specific, quirky type of comedy. What makes this movie so awesome is my main man, one of my favorite comedians alive right now, period, Jermaine Clement. Now, you know Jermaine Clement, if you're into good comedy at all. Flight of the Conchords, dude! Aside from Flight of the Conchords, I cannot get enough of Jermaine Clement in Dinner for Schmucks or Gentlemen Broncos. His face is just a joyful, happy face. His comedy is both commanding and subdued at the same time. But Jermaine wasn't alone. He had a partner on this project. Of all people, Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok, co-wrote and co-directed this movie. I'm having an attempt to say his name again because I'm sure I'm not even saying it right now, man. But this guy's a real director. He's directed some really good films like Boy. Get this movie is not the first time that this storyline was introduced by these guys. They made a short film back in 2005 that you can still find on YouTube right now. And it's a true short film, man. This thing is on a micro budget. The vampire teeth are all off. It's a fascinating watch if you're a fan of this movie already, but I don't think a lot of people do know about this movie, which is why I'm making this video. So let us now get into What We Do in the Shadows. So this movie is a mockumentary in the style of Christopher Guest, and this is Spinal Tap. It's modern day New Zealand, and a documentary film crew has been granted access to follow around a trio of vampires in the months leading up to the great undead masquerade ball. As the vampires awake, and we are introduced to our first main character, Viago. He's an 18th century dandy, kind of like the Felix Unger of the vampire world. Now, Viago wants to hold a flat meeting with his roommates because they all live together in this flat in New Zealand. So he goes around and he wakes up the next vampire, Deacon. Next to be woken up is my man Jermaine, playing Vladislav. Totally rocking the 90s Dracula thing on the ceiling there with the chicks. Then Viago goes downstairs to awaken the last vampire, Peter. Peter was like over 800 years old and he's a straight up Nosferatu style vampire, man. If you stare at him, you actually are kind of like, dude, that's kind of freaky. So next we start getting into what this movie is about and why this movie is special. Vampires, they've been alive forever, they're immortal, but you still have a house, you still have chores, you still need to have meetings with your roommates to keep things on point.
The point is, Deacon, that you have not done the dishes for 5 years.
And as they're having a flat meeting, the movie in documentary format shows us a little more history on the characters. And this is the thing about this movie. It's the characters. They're relatable people. As the story goes on, it might seem like a little vampire tropey, but these characters have emotional story arcs and interactions that are actually genuine and valid and funny as hell to watch.
Now you are vampire.
And it was Peter.
Let me just stop right there and say this. The musical score in this film is astounding. It's got to be the definition of fitting. dude, it's like weird, dirty, filthy, acid blood, hippie folk. Kudos to the song choices on this movie. Next, boys go out for a night of fun in downtown Wellington, New Zealand, where there's evidently a ton of other vampires too. But they have a hard time getting in the club because it turns out you have to be invited in, even to a public place like a nightclub, dude. I mean, being a vampire would have all types of problems if you thought about it. Next is the part of the film where we find out Deacon has a servant, man. And this chick is waiting to become a vampire, but Deacon's totally not doing it because he's more concerned about having her do his laundry. Deacon tells the servant to bring over some sacrifices for dinner to the house where the guys live at their flat. She does, and we get this funny little homage to the Lost Boys and stuff, right, with spaghetti. Then we actually get this fantastic chase scene. Watch this scene and see how these three guys chase down their prey and toy with them. The most coolest part is when Deacon literally comes out of Nick's book bag to attack him when Nick is in the locked room. Nick throws the bag, and Deacon comes crawling across the floor at like, it is bugging, yo. I'm all about that scene. You're actually seeing them like play with their food. But then Peter eats them. Now the trio is forced to have a new member in Nick. Everybody else in the movie is like 300, 500, 800 years old. But Nick is from this generation, so he starts trying to show him what it's like to be around today, which I think is funny. And this is the cherry on top. Nick still wants to maintain friendships with his alive non-vampire friends, and he has a friend, Stu. This is hysterical to me, especially when Stu starts to show them everything like the internet and how to see sunrise and take photos themselves because like they have no reflection, so they don't really know what they look like. All the guys take to Stu immediately. They all like Stu way more than they like Nick, man. Documented crew keeps following around our guys, and even one night they come across some werewolves. And I love this because the alpha of the werewolf group is Rise Darby, man, also from Flight of the Conchords and Jim Carrey's Yes Man. Here's another quickie for now on to the third act, the Masquerade Ball. I'm not gonna cover this too much, man, because if you know the movie, you know what happens, dude. Vladislav the Polka has an arch nemesis named the Beast, and at this masquerade ball, he thought he was going to be the guest of honor, but it actually turns out his arch nemesis, the Beast, is the guest of honor. I don't want to ruin this at all! Like, seriously, let me just actually cut from the end of this movie and say, look, man, you see the trio and Nick start to really form together a bond. And this is where the heart of this bizarre comedy mockumentary lies, and the trials and tribulations you face in life and how you face them with your friends. Doesn't matter if you're a vampire or a werewolf, we can all get through this together. By the end of the movie, you actually feel like you know these guys, like you were there with them, that this is an actual documentary, and that's the entire experience that Jermaine and Tahi wanted to set up for you, was to actually feel like this could be real, even as absurd as it is. I love it. It really is something you don't get every day in other vampire movies. If you want to see a good vampire movie that is a comedy, you check out What We Do in the Shadows, free on Amazon Prime. But now, it is time for the hunt to resume.
Happy Halloween.
Please, Nick, eat some biscotti.
Here it is.
Oh, Mandy, you came and you gave without taking. I'm sorry. Happy October, guys. It's me, Old School, and I'm here with the first quick kill for Halloween Havoc 2018. What's a quick kill, you might ask yourself? Well, by popular demand of like 20 of my friends, some people did want me to do more horror moves than just 6. I was gonna do 5 Mondays and the Halloween 2018 review on the Thursday when it comes out. But it turns out if I make shorter 3 to 5 minute episodes, I can do almost 3 a week for the rest of the month. So I figured, screw it, man, I'm gonna give you everything. New ones, old one, cult classics, everything. So without further ado, let's get this rolling with what could be one of my top favorite movies of 2018 so far, Nicolas Cage's triumphant return in Mandy. This is one of those movies that sticks with you for days after you see it, and I was overjoyed watching this, and if you follow my reviews, you know why. Art house independent films that take risks and are psychedelic and surreal are my absolute favorite type of genre, my favorite type of films, period, man. And Mandy falls right in there. I mean, this film is drenched in psychedelia and LSD. I mean, the storyline is all about LSD in some aspects. The movie will make you feel like you're on LSD. And speaking of surreal movies, if you don't know, David Lynch is my favorite director. So it took me like a day or two, because I watched this like a couple days ago. It took me like a couple days to figure out if I really liked this movie or I didn't like it at all, because it is, and you can say it, a David Lynch ripoff of directing styles. I forgot the name of the director and I wrote notes down, but I'm in my car because I prefer to do new movie reviews in my car for some reason. I don't know, I'm a weirdo. Point being, I love this movie. It has flaws. It's 2 hours long and it feels like it, man. But the imagery is astounding. The music is unparalleled in any other film I've seen recently. I mean, 1 minute in, the entire tone and scope of this film is set by the opening credits and the music that they use. This is not an average movie, and yes, it is a horror movie. It's listed as a horror thriller. Dude, I'm not gonna go into the storyline too much, but it is horrific, and it is bloody and gory, and it will blow your mind if you're a person who's not really used to movies like this. Like for me, I saw a lot of stuff coming, and I was like, oh, that's a nice little camera trick or whatever it is. My mind really wasn't too blown, but emotionally, this movie hit me on a serious level, man. So the story goes like this. Nicolas Cage plays Red. He has a girl, Mandy. They live in the woods. One day, Mandy's walking down the road. Some crazy cult members see her. The cult sets up shop nearby. They go and get Mandy. Things happen and it becomes a revenge movie. I don't think this is a spoiler. It's a revenge movie. So you know something's gonna happen to Mandy. But I'm keeping my lips sealed, man, because this movie's a slow burn. Okay, now I'm talking about like at the hour mark, because I checked. It was an hour before we really hit like the pinnacle peak of where you knew this movie was going. Usually it doesn't take that long to be like, because there's a lot of boring monologues, and there is, like, this is why, just real quick, I'm gonna give it 4 stars out of 5. I'm taking that last star away because the pacing gets blown in these huge monologues by certain characters. But the other parts of the movie make up for it so much more. Now get ready if you're gonna watch this movie, man, okay? This is real Nicolas Cage. This is not the meme Nicolas Cage. This is when you look into his eyes, you will see a man who has truly broke with reality. This isn't him playing it up or being silly or being a character of himself. This is the actual Nick Cage. A lot of the things in this movie are horrific. I mean, it's not overly gory, even though there is a lot of blood and hardcore violence in this movie. Just be warned, because this is the type of movie that'll get inside your head. So if you're looking for something new to watch this Halloween with what is the comeback of one of Hollywood's treasures, man, I don't care what anybody says. Nicolas Cage won an Oscar for Moonstruck. This man made Leaving Las Vegas. This man can outact so many other people. So he's eccentric and crazy and like went for the gimmick side of himself, dude. I think he's trying to come back. Go see Mandy if it's still playing in one of your major cities there nearby, which it is at art houses, but it is available right now on Amazon. I loved this movie, guys. You need to check it out. It's different. Different is good. My name is Old School. This is Halloween Havoc. Tune in late tomorrow night on High Evolution Studios YouTube channel for my Venom review, or on Friday right here on Old School Reviews.
This really isn't funny, dude. Help me!
Here it is.
Hellfest, a movie where a bunch of millennials get slaughtered at a gigantic Halloween attraction. And to be completely honest, I kind of like watching those millennials get killed. My name is Old School, and welcome back to another edition of Quick Kills. So I went and saw Hellfest a couple days ago, man, because I wanted to see a brand new horror movie, something that was out in the theater. And honestly, I can't wait to see Halloween, so I just wanted to go see a new horror movie. I wish I didn't, because this movie, Hellfest, was summed up best by this random girl, because the theater had nobody in it. There was like 5 people in this theater, man. The movie ends, you know, it's a stupid ending. It was one of those like, what? I don't even understand what the point of that ending was. But the words come up, Hellfest, right? And I hear this chick, she like smacks her hand on her knee, and she's like, well, that was disappointing. I'm like, disappointing? This movie didn't look good from the preview. No actors that I know. I had no idea who the director was. And it's exactly what you think it's gonna be. It's just some random slasher walking around, killing a bunch of teenagers, no explanations. We've seen this movie 1,145 other times done better. If you're gonna make a standard slasher, I'm killing teenagers who are falling in love, want to have sex and stuff like that, put a better spin on it than it happens inside of a haunted house, haunted maze attraction. That's not enough of a spin to be original, especially when it's this predictable, vapid, and empty. I would say the only reason possible to go see this is you just want to go see the most throwaway slash movie of all time because it's October and you just want to go see a horror movie. If you want to go see a movie where you know you're just basically throwing away $12, but you're like, screw it, I want to see some millennials die, then go see it. Otherwise, don't go see it because this movie gets 1 star out of 5. So that movie sucked. No shocker there. But on Monday, I'll be talking about a good movie. A movie nobody seems to be talking about at all in the land of nostalgic 80s movies. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. I'm going to be hitting on a couple topics and talking about a few movies on this next expanded episode of Halloween Havoc. So check in on Monday, guys. Until then, I am old school.
You want to see something really scary? You bet.
You were scared, weren't you?
I wasn't that scared.
Welcome to Halloween Havoc. I am the old ghoul, and this is my familiar, Volvis the Poacher. I had to have him eat my last servant because I did not like the setup he had behind me. But I have a new servant, Ratso. I don't like him that much so far. You may have to take him out, Volvis? Volvis is here to help us discuss this week's movie, Cat's Eye, and the anthology horror that inspired it. I will let you down now.
I put a spell on you.
Anthology horror, a staple of the genre, dating all the way back to the short story compendiums of Edgar Allan Poe. Then over the years, we got EC Comics and Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horrors. And these were so popular, it opened the floodgates and gave way to a plethora of all new anthologies, all built around the twist. This is the thing about short stories. They're built around an idea, not around characterization or lengthy plot. So the final twist is crucial to having a good horror story. Then as we move forward throughout history, television and movies started adapting the anthology format as well. I would say most famously done on a weekly basis by The Twilight Zone. Every week was another bizarre, twisted, fear-laden tale that was only half an hour long and had some of the best twist endings in history. Fast forward to the 80s and the horror resurgence boom, both in the theaters and on the home video market. There were little sub-pocket genres within the 80s horror movement, and anthology movies were one of them. Leading the charge was Twilight Zone the movie, and I love me some Twilight Zone the movie. Not every story, and this brings me to the one problem we have with anthology horror. When you have 4 stories, you know not every one of them is gonna be good. This is one of the problems. The most you can hope for is 3 out of 4 good stories, and I feel Twilight Zone the movie has 3 out of 4 good stories, man. Plus it's got that wicked Dan Aykroyd intro, which I just love. Then there was a slew of other anthology movies and shows, all with tales in the title. Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Hood, Tales from the Crypt, and they kept on doing it all the way up to Horror Masters and a movie I'll be talking about later on this month, Trick or Treat. So the point of all this history is I feel an anthology movie can only be as good as all of its parts combined together. And that brings us to the movie I want to discuss this week. A movie I loved as a kid watching on TV. It used to be on Channel 11 all the time. I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It was like an affiliate out of like New York and stuff. If it was on, I was watching it. Cat's Eye.
Because you're mine.
Cats? I'm a kitty cat. And I dance, 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 and I dance, dance, dance.
Now I love me some cats. I know most dudes are dog people, not me. I am the cat defender. Cats are just cooler. They seem smarter. They have personalities. Out of original style to a thing, there is a love about a cat. So right off the bat, I'm partial to this movie, which was a split vote between Cisco and Ebert. Cisco thought it was good, but didn't like the middle story at all.
As it now plays with Cat's Eye, we get too little of this, too little of that.
And Ebert loved the whole thing.
I enjoyed myself. I'm going to vote thumbs up.
Man, I come down on the I love the whole thing side. Cat's Eye is very fun in its nostalgia and the fact that it hasn't been beaten to death like other stuff from the 80s, like, say, Goonies. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What is Cat's Eye? You might be a young person out there who has no idea about this 1985 Stephen King written anthology movie. Yes, this was written by the man himself, the Fear Master. And each story in Cat's Eye has to deal with a different fear. Two of the stories are actually adapted from the collection Night Shift, Quitters Inc. and The Ledge. But King wrote a very special third story for this movie called The General, which deals with the cat. So our movie begins with the common thread that ties everything together, the tabby cat, General. General is just wandering around. He looks up in a store window and he sees Drew Barrymore's face on a mannequin, and then he's nabbed by Quitters Inc. Quitters Inc. is story number 1, starring James Woods. And I always love me some James Woods. I'm gonna say it right now, I'm a huge fan of the Woods. So the whole point of this one is James Woods wants to quit smoking, and he goes to a place called Quitters Inc. I really like this one because I'm a smoker. I don't necessarily personally want to stop smoking. I know it's not healthy. Don't make this about me! Now, as I was just saying before, anthology horror is based around the twists at the end of every story. I'm not gonna give those twists away, so I'm just gonna give you some quick highlights of each story, okay? James Woods is at the office and he goes in for his consultation with the head guy. You know, something is rotten in Denmark because the dude locks the doors and there's a creepy vibe set. Well, Quitters Inc. uses unconventional methods to get you to stop smoking, and how they do it is by torturing your family members and escalating the torture until death if you break the rules of your contract as far as you wanting to quit smoking. It turns out that this first story is all about the classic tale of be careful what bargain you enter into. This one hits close to home for me, man. I think that's all I can say about Quitters Inc., man, because the whole ending part of it will ruin anything if I say it. So let's move on to story number 2, The Ledge. Now, the fear aspect of The Ledge is based around heights, but there's a nice little sub-story in there about the fear you have about losing your partner because of decisions you made. This story begins with gamblers, and they're actually gambling on if the General can make it across a busy Atlantic City street. So right away, it's pretty easy to tell the personality of one of the main characters in The Ledge. So long story short, there's a couple, and there's a good guy and the girl, but the girl is actually married to the gambler who is making the bet on General. They are trying to get away from the gambler. The dude puts the chick on a bus, and he's like, you're gone. 2 seconds after the bus leaves, these dudes come up, grab the guy, put chloroform in his mouth, knock him out cold. They take him to the gambler. Now, the gambler, being who he is, has a wager for the man sleeping with his wife. And that wager is, he must walk all the way around a Las Vegas casino on one ledge and make it back. And if he does, the gambler says that he can have his wife and all this money and all this other stuff. So of course the guy, who's the guy from Airplane, but I forget his name, because I've been sucking with names lately, man. I've been forgetting stuff. Dude takes up the gambler's offer and decides to do the ledge thing. And he does. And as he's doing it, the gambler's screwing with him, blowing horns, to try to get him wet and stuff like that. Dude does it! He actually goes all the way around and he comes back in, but then here we go, there's a twist. I can't say anything else on that one, The Ledge. The General keeps wandering and he comes across Drew Barrymore, who Stephen King must have really liked because she was also in Firestarter. Back in the 80s, everybody could not get enough of how adorable and cute little Drew Barrymore was. She kind of drew it to be a freak, but she's a good person, man. Anyway, here's where we get to see the result of what the common thread was. The cat kept seeing Drew Barrymore every place because Drew Barrymore was crying out in her dreams for somebody to come save her. And the General finds her. But what does Drew Barrymore need saving from? Yo, she's got a wall troll! Like a straight up, what are kids afraid of the most? A monster in their wall. Something that comes out and nobody believes that they see it, and it's specifically after them. So this story is all about a child's fear. A fear of what comes out to screw with you while you're sleeping. I love this story, man, because the mom don't like the cat at all. The dad's like, I'm on the fence about the cat. All this weird stuff keeps happening, man. And again, I'm not gonna say too much to ruin this, but if you're a cat lover at all, this story is for you. So in a nutshell, that was Cat's Eye.
What's up?
It's not bloody, it's not gory, but it does have that Stephen King mentality and feeling to it. Definitely a sense of nostalgia that those of us from Generation X, you might have forgotten about. And for those of you who've never seen this, go see Cat's Eye. Don't expect anything anywhere near as violent or as crazy as something as, say, Trick or Treat. But Cat's Eye does have something that will make this Halloween more special for you if you watch it. I highly suggest it. Now I must call forth my servant to complete this evening. Razzo! Razzo, where are you? Wolves, you did not eat Razzo yet, did you? Let him at least screw up one more time and then I'll give him to you.
Silver Shamrock.
What the fuck is that? Oh, dude, what the hell's going on now? Oh, dude, what? This movie will fuck you up for days. Happy Halloween, Havoc. It is me, Old School, and I'm back with another quick kill. So when I decided to extend my Halloween Havoc month with these shorter quick kill episodes, I knew the movies that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to keep it in the theme of my other reviews, talking about more underrated, overlooked, and unknown films. But then there are movies that almost everybody has heard of, but not everybody has seen. And that's the type of movie we're going to talk about this week. One of the true staples of the midnight movies, David Lynch's Eraserhead. A film that actually captures the feeling you have as your dreams mixed with nightmares captured on celluloid. Now, as anybody who follows my reviews knows, David Lynch is my favorite director, and Eraserhead is his first full-length film. This film is one of the first times the American Film Institute ever helped produce a film with one of its students, David Lynch. The film took years to make. It was released in 1977. I always looked at David Lynch as a cinematic equivalent to like Salvador Dali. There's no conventional way to review Eraserhead because this film doesn't even enter on any of my top 10 favorite lists of anything, man, because it stands alone. It's Eraserhead. There's truly nothing like it. These images mixed with the music will stick with you for time. The same exact way a really bad dream or a horrible nightmare sticks with you. In my opinion, this is the most horrific movie of all time. I mean, sure, you have your Texas Chainsaw Massacres and your hostels and your whatever, torture, people get ripped apart and like intestines being eaten and stuff like that, you know what I mean, like Cannibal Holocaust or whatever, man. But this movie actually resonates with your mind, your subconscious, the truly creepy, the truly bizarre, the true horror that only your subconscious mind can conjure. So what is Eraserhead about? Well, this is a Halloween special. I'm going to talk more about David Lynch later on this year in December, man, because I want to talk about my second favorite movie of all time, Blue Velvet, and really get into David Lynch's whole career and why he matters so much to me. But to keep it real simple, David Lynch movie plots do not function the same way as other movies do. It's an emotional impact that, yes, it does tell a story, but it's not a story based within conventional character development or situational dilemmas. Eraserhead is a movie that literally is designed the minute you put it on to induce a dreamlike state. And if you put this on and turn your cell phone off and turn off all the lights and you watch this movie, you will come out of it different. I really wanted to cover this one because I was a huge fan of the midnight movies. I used to go there all the time throughout my life, and that's where I originally saw this. I never really understood it until I got older and after a lot of drug experimentation, but to me it truly stands as America's finest independent film of all time. Most people can't even watch this movie. They turn it off right about like the 25-30 minute mark, man, the minute the baby shows up, dude. That's where most people bail. So if you think you're tough enough to watch this bizarre, surrealistic nightmare on film this Halloween, really scare yourself. So until Friday, I'm Old School, and I'll see you on Halloween Havoc.
Earth children, please. I mean you no harm.
Terror Vision, the Charles Band Empire classic from 1986. It is I, Old School. I'm back with another quick kill. Now, I know I ain't been covering much gory stuff around here, and I know the gore hounds want to get into some sloppy, schlocky, bloody Guts, right? Well, here you go, man. TerrorVision stands alone a ton of other 80s horror comedies, of which in the 80s, my God, there were so many horror comedies coming out. It was unbelievable. You couldn't keep up. Now, if you're younger and you've never heard of TerrorVision or Charles Band, you probably might have heard of a certain company called Full Moon Features. Well, Charles Band, after Empire crumbled and folded, went on to found with his family Full Moon. Before he got there, Charles was making classics ahead of the curve. Now, of course, we know that in the 80s, movies had a certain specific look and a feel with the music and the clothes and the dress. But very few movies that were made in the mid-80s were actually able to lampoon the 80s with a storyline like TerrorVision. This film is drenched in 80s. This was truly made for the I Want My MTV generation. And to send them up as the couch potato TV junkies that generation was. This movie is like the 80s turned up to 11. Basically in the story, right, there's these aliens from like another dimension and they're trying to throw out their trash. But the trash gets intercepted by a classic 80s satellite. Remember those huge, big ass satellites people had in their backyards, right? Well, one of those intercepts alien mutation, right? This thing comes to a TV set, so it's eating everybody in sight, man. There's these kids that try to befriend the monstrosity that this alien is, right? And he just had to talk and everything. Oh my God. Every single thing about this movie is fun. This is a fun, fantastic movie to watch this Halloween. This is one of those films that I know a lot of younger people probably have not seen, so I'm just not even going to talk about it, man. If you want to see a movie that's a giant metaphor for how the 80s warped people's minds, and you want to watch a giant rubber monster turn people limb from limb and into pure goo, you need to go see TerrorVision. This movie is fun as hell. I love it, man. Plus, it ties into what I'm going to talk about on Monday in my extended next full-length episode of Halloween Havoc. So until next time, guys.
You may not have heard of the term video nasties or gross-out films. These terms refer to a whole group of pictures full of blood and guts. But this isn't regular horror pictures.
For the serious strife, now you make the scene all day, but tomorrow.
Wow! That's a Kruger blaster, the most powerful handgun in the universe.
That's right, Fat Boy.
Fat Boy? Did Tim Thomerson just call that kid Fat Boy? The 90s were a different time. Greetings, my children. It is I, the old ghoul, back with another full episode of Halloween Havoc. We are getting deeper and deeper into this month, nearing All Hallows Eve. So I want to expand the reviews that I'm doing and talk about more than just a movie this week. I want to talk about an entire film company. I don't want to waste any time, and I'm going to get right to this. So if you follow my reviews, you know that on Friday, I was talking about Charles Band and the 80s classic movie TerrorVision. Now at that time, Charles owned Empire Pictures, making the schlockiest, cheesiest movies ever in the theater. But unfortunately, that company crumbled and folded. But there was a bright light on the horizon. Fast forward to the late 80s. Those of us that were there, this is nothing new. But if you're younger, my God, in the late 80s, the VCR exploded, man. Video rental shops popped up everywhere across the country, creating a brand new market for independent direct-to-video features. This gave Charles Band his ultimate opportunity to come back and make films once again direct-to-video. So 30 years ago, with the help of his family, Charles founded Full Moon Features. A staple of horror so much, Full Moon is almost its own subgenre within the horror community. Now this was Charles's plan, to make movies as fast and as cheap as humanly possible, to just throw things at the wall and see what would stick, to build franchises. Right out the gate, he released Puppet Master. I don't even know how many sequels they've had to Puppet Master at this point, man. It's the flagship Full Moon franchise. Now, I like Puppet Master fine. I think those movies are really good. It's not my most favorite Full Moon movie, which we will be talking about in a few minutes, but it did set up the structure for how Full Moon would operate. And yo, before I forget, man, long before the MCU, which is near and dear to my heart as you know, Full Moon had one of the first interconnected expanded universes where characters would crisscross in a current timeline. Just look at the franchises these guys have built over the years, man. Puppet Master, Subspecies, Evil Bong. They took transfers from Empire and made like 7 more sequels. And the movie that is my favorite Full Moon feature of all time, Doll Man. This is my shit. I love the silliest, dumbest thing possibly done. I like dummies, I like action figures being used and all types of stuff. I'm a huge fan of Godzilla, man, you know what I'm saying? I just love anything cheesy and deliberate. Well, if you've ever seen a Full Moon feature, you know that their movies are deliberate. They know the budget they have, they know the special effects they're giving you, but they're trying the best they can, and as a viewer, you take it because of the sheer enjoyment you can get from something like Doll Man. Let me sum this up in 2 seconds. I'm gonna try to hold back laughing on this, man, because as I'm doing this review, the clips are playing in my mind, dude. I'm gonna try to hold it together here. Doll Man, released in 1991, written by Charles Band, directed by Albert Pune, and starring the man himself, Tim Thomerson. Is the man. I don't care what anybody says, yo, seriously. Now, as always, let me do the thing where I say I'm not gonna spoil this movie, because if you've never seen Doll Man, and you like silly, cheesy, horror science fiction movies, you need to go see it right now. So our film opens up on the planet Arcturus, where Tim Thomerson is playing Brick Bardo. And there's some dude who has a bunch of women and kids held hostage at a laundromat. And Brick goes in, and you get all the history you need from him walking past his police chief and the news crews and his other cops and stuff like that, right? So he goes and he handles it. That's where there's the line from earlier about the fat boy thing or whatever, right? So we get the groundwork that this guy is basically Dirty Harry on steroids and nitrous oxide, right? You don't want to screw with Brick Bardo. So next in the film, Bardo comes across his arch nemesis, Sprug, the Flying Head. And Sprug has an interstellar neutron bomb strapped to the side of his head, right? So Bardo tries to take him out, dude, but Sprug escapes in his spaceship. Bardo jumps in his spaceship, chases down Sprug, they go through some like wormhole time tunnel thing, boom, they wind up on the other side of the galaxy where guess what? They land on Earth. Here we go, man. So once on Earth, Brick realizes that Arcturans are only 13 inches in size in comparison to human being size. Now, without giving too much away, man, there's like this social worker that Brick gets hooked up with, dude. She takes his spaceship home. She's a little kid. The kid's screwing with it, dude. He's still trying to get Sprug, and out of nowhere, the guy who plays Rorschach, Jackie Earl Haley, shows up to be the next bad guy after he squishes Sprug. Now, this is what Full Moon could do. They could cast a movie and they could tell a story. They just didn't know how to get realistic special effects or to actually like make a full movie, because Doll Man is like 76 minutes. This movie is barely a movie. Most Full Moon movies in the early days were like 76 minutes. But no shit, you have performances like Jackie Earle Haley's in Doll Man that somehow makes you forget that you're watching a low-budget schlock independent movie. It makes you actually start to get invested in the characters for a second. The same way Tim Thomerson is definitely a serious actor, but he has that slice of cheese when you watch him, man. But watching the two guys play together in Doll Man is amazing. So the movie goes on, and Jackie Earle Haley is terrorizing the neighborhood that the social worker is trying to save. So Brick gets involved, and you get some of the most fantastically cheesy segments in film history ever, man. When he jumps out of the window. Oh God, I knew I'd have a hard time doing this review, man. Full Moon movies are the funnest, most ridiculous horror science fiction films out there. It takes a certain type of person to watch these movies, or I guess to be in a certain type of mood to watch a Full Moon movie. Forget discussing the rest of Doll Man, dude. They actually made a sequel called Doll Man vs. Demonic Toys. I shit you not. which not only crossed over Doll Man Demonic Toys, it actually brought one of the shrunken chicks from Bad Channels into it, man. Like I said, shared universe. If you want to see a fantastically entertaining movie this Halloween that's got horror elements, but it's just ridiculous, go on Amazon, download the Full Moon app, watch Doll Man. So that sums up everything I wanted to say about Charles Band and Full Moon. Next to my children, I have something special for you coming on Thursday. It's my Halloween 2018 movie review, straight from the theater. I already got my tickets. Danny McBride helped write this movie, man. I've heard nothing but good things about this movie, dude. I am extra psyched. There will be no quick kill for the remainder of this week, but check back on Thursday on High Evolution Studios YouTube channel and right here on Old School Reviews on Facebook on Friday.
Here it is.
So Happy Death Day is getting a sequel. And I've been curious about this movie since it came out last year, man. So finally I was like, I have to see this movie. And here is my thoughts on it. It is I, my children, Old School, back with a quick kill on a Monday that was supposed to be an episode that I didn't get to because get this right. My actual day job is I'm a professional artist. I'm a CEO of High Evolution Studios, right? I'm about to leave to go on this gigantic month-long cross-country Comic-Con and event tour. So I kind of fell a little bit shy on wrapping up some of the longer, in-depth Halloween Havoc episodes. So for this Monday, it's a quick kill, but you will be getting 3 more full-length Halloween Havoc episodes. So let's get into this, man. Happy Death Day, the Groundhog Day horror movie. One of the reasons why I always wanted to see it, one of the reasons why I never wanted to see it, because you straight up jacked your storyline for one of my favorite Bill Murray movies ever. But then I heard that it worked. So I was eventually going to get around to watching it, and I finally watched it last night, and it worked. I don't know how. I don't know how Blumhouse makes these movies that seem like they're not going to work, and then they do work. Because I know that Blumhouse is like the new House of Horrors. Bagoo! Jump scare kings, man. But then they start branching out, making more and more interesting concept types of horror movies like Get Out, and then they made Split, now they're making Glass. So Blumhouse is kind of winning me over, man. But this is what gets me. If you went and saw the new Halloween movie recently, you saw the trailer for Happy Death Day 2U before it, and they give away who the killer was in the first one. I never saw the first one, but when I was watching it, I was able to figure it out within 10 minutes because they kind of telegraphed who the killer was. So if you have any interest at all in seeing one of last year's biggest horror movies, man, don't watch the preview under any circumstances for the sequel, Happy Death Day 2U, which seems like they're completely shooting this entire storyline out there because just like Groundhog Day, they never explain why she looped. Now, unlike Groundhog Day, they did make some smart changes, which I liked, but it does follow every single solitary beat. The little blonde girl's a bitch. She has to learn to be a good person, but it's so forced and ham-fisted. It doesn't really make any sense why she has to do this. Like in Groundhog Day, it was kind of like the universe is telling you to be a good person, and you have a chance to do good, learn to be good, right? This one, it's kind of like an afterthought, but I don't care, and here's why I don't care. I like the actors. I like the girl's emotions. She really was able to play a different person throughout the entire movie, showing a progression of change. And I like that. I like a good character arc. So let me sum it up right here, man. If you like silly, semi-self-aware horror movies with a tongue in their cheek, go see Happy Death Day, man. Check it out. I think it's on Cinemax or Showtime or HBO. I don't know what I watched it on. It was something on Amazon. I saw it and I was like, I'm watching this movie. Ratings-wise, I'm not really sure what to give it. I'm gonna go 3 out of 5. It was pretty damn enjoyable and it kept my interest. There was only one tiny little scene that I thought dragged in it. So if this is a movie that you never got around to, or you thought was just going to be stupid because of its rip-off Groundhog Day premise, I'm suggesting you check it out this Halloween, man. Real quick before I go, if you want to meet me in person and come to some of these Comic-Cons, I'll be in Richmond, Virginia this weekend at the VA Comic-Con, followed up the weekend of November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I believe, at Thy Geekdom Con in Oaks, PA, outside Philadelphia. Following weekend, I'll be up in Maine at the Pine State Comic-Con. So more details on that. Follow Art of Old School on Facebook for those details. So until next time.
Evil.
Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? Come with us and you will see this our town of...
Now that's what I'm talking about, man! Hell fucking yes! That movie was awesome! My name is Old School. I just got out of seeing Halloween 2018. And as you can see, I am ecstatic. Oh my God, it only took 40 years to get a good Michael Myers Halloween sequel. 40 years. I've talked about before how Halloween is the worst franchise there is. Almost every single sequel they've ever done has not only been garbage, it's been hot garbage. Take out Halloween 3, because I like Halloween 3. If you don't like Halloween 3, I don't know what your problem is. That's a damn good, funny, awesome 80s movie, man. I mean, 4 had its moments. H2O had a couple good moments. Basically, all those Halloween sequels sucked because they did not do what this one did, which is simple. Take a little time, write a competent script, get a good director, and remember the key factor to horror. Showing people's faces get ripped off and like their intestines exploded everywhere is not horror. True horror is built within fear. Fear is something that has to build. How do you build it? You create tension in a movie by delivering realistic characters in a realistic setting, and then you let them play. And that's what this movie did. I have not come out of a movie this psyched in ages. I loved everything about it. I want to give it a fantastic, perfect 5-star score, but I can't because there was the classic stupid horror movie tropes where it's like, why are you doing that? But I only counted like 3 in the movie because it is a horror movie. It's one of the things that comes with the territory of watching horror movies is you're gonna see people do stuff where you're like, yeah, you know better than to do that, right? You're gonna go do that? That's not smart. Aside from that, take that out, man. I'm gonna give this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. Almost perfect, man, because I love Michael Myers to death, and this movie made me want to see him die horribly. Usually I root for Michael in the movies. I'm like, kill those idiot kids, man. They suck. Not this time. This time I was like, Michael Myers needs to die, because this is the Michael Myers from the first movie, the original 1978 John Carpenter classic. Wait, I'm not really sure I'm giving this a standing review. I'm tired of doing standing reviews, man. The actors were good, the cinematography was good, everything about it was good. The most important thing about this movie was the feeling. It felt like Halloween, it seemed like Halloween, it captured the magic and the feeling of the first one. It fits the season perfectly because it actually integrated Halloween more so than some of the other movies did. Where usually it always happens on Halloween, but there's not enough to make it feel like Halloween. So my recommendation isn't just to go see Halloween, it's you must go see the new Halloween. The truly most horrible thing about this movie that does suck is the title. Who thought just naming it Halloween exactly like the first one, exactly like Rob Zombie's reboot, would work? That's so stupid. I don't know why there's any little surtitle underneath it. To differentiate this one from the other two would help. It's kind of like when they made that Thing prequel and they called it The Thing. Yo, can you stop naming your movies the same exact thing as the other movies and when it's actually a sequel or a prequel? Aside from that, I'm going to see this again in the theater, dude. This is definitely one of those movies I'm going to buy on Blu-ray, dude, and watch it every year thereafter. This truly is the definitive, only real sequel to John Carpenter's 1978 classic. The only one period. Gotta go see this movie. All right, I'm just gonna keep on rambling. My name is Old School. This is Old School Reviews, man. Peace. It's Friday. My name is Old School. This is a Halloween Havoc quick kill. I have been waiting all year to talk about this movie. Technically, this episode should have been a full-length Halloween Havoc episode, but as you can see, this is not my house. This is a hotel room. I am in Virginia because I am at the VA Comic-Con tomorrow and Sunday. But the reviews shall continue. So let's get into Out of the Dark, directed by one of the world's biggest directors, period, Stephen Chow. Now, you know Stephen Chow. This guy is the Amadeus of slapstick martial arts comedy, who transferred over to make China's biggest films in history. Mermaid was a worldwide smash hit movie. Here in America, nobody even knows who this guy is aside from maybe Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle. And I know I always say my main man, this guy's my favorite, this is the best thing ever. Well, seriously now. Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle. Come on, dude. Those movies are like nothing else I've ever seen. The comedy level that Stephen Chow can create is an individual thing just with him. Now, you know I love ridiculously silly, stupid, random movies. They can't just be dumb like Joe Dirt. They have to be like insane, like Who Killed Captain Alex? Well, Out of the Dark is that special kind of silly slapstick horror that the only thing that even comes close to it is Evil Dead 2, but Out of the Dark is even more insane and shot out. Believe me, I don't even know what I'm even explaining this movie to you. This is a horror movie. It does fall under the undiscovered, unknown, and overlooked category because I doubt like one of you out there probably saw this movie, man. Oh wait, so there's one thing you need to know before I talk about this movie. The whole thing is subtitled. It doesn't matter. There is no English translation, and it is that rare and hard to come by. But don't let that stop you from watching this, man. It doesn't even matter because this movie's visual comedy is what the storyline's all about. So speaking of the storyline, let me get into this. This movie is a horror movie because it's all about possession. There's this horrible murder at the beginning, and these ghosts go around happening everybody, making them kill other people. There's gruesome heads chopped off and all types of crazy stuff that makes this qualify as a movie that is valid to watch on Halloween. But getting back to the story, right? So in this high-rise apartment, the ghosts are running wild, possessing everybody, and all of a sudden, Stephen Chow shows up, right? But get this, he's dressed as Leon the Professional from the 1995 movie, The Professional. You know, Luc Besson, when Natalie Portman was like a little girl with Leon, the hitman's got the glasses, and they walk around the plane all the time. For some reason, dude, Stephen Chow stays in character dressed up as Leon the whole movie, and there's this girl who befriends him to try to stop the ghost, right? Because like they call themselves ghost busters, which is the weirdest shit because they have no equipment like what we would think of as a ghost buster. It's like a spirit buster because you know over in Asia, right, they have like special names for each possessing demon and ghost and stuff. Like they get really into that stuff. So anyway, he's like one of those dudes. He's like a demon hunter guy, but he's also insane and escaped from a mental asylum. This movie is so hard to review because I'm trying to make this short and quick because I have other stuff to do tonight because I just got here to Virginia, yo, right? And I'm like trying to explain this insane movie to you. So the ghosts keep on doing stuff. Stephen Chow tries to stop him. He gets all the security guards in the building together, right, to try to teach them how to be psychic Ghostbusters too. There's all these professional references. It's absolutely insane. Here, just watch some clips and you'll figure out if you want to watch this or not.
Yeah.
Let me just stop and say this, right? Stephen Chow's Out of the Dark is on a special list I hold over here of cheesy underground movies. We got Doll Man over here, we got Shakes the Clown over here, dude. We got Out of the Dark over here, we got Who Killed Captain Alex. On that list, that's like my special list of insane, silly movies. This is a great horror one to watch around Halloween from that list. I already talked about Doll Man, so there you go. Go check out Out of the Dark if you want to laugh and get some spooks because there's a lot of good jump scares in it. Outside of that, man, check on Monday for my next full-length Halloween Havoc episode with special guest stars. And then Halloween night for the grand finale. So until then, guys.
Trick or treat. Thank you.
I got a raw.
Who's watching me?
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy.
Oh, it's good, my children. It is I, Old School, here with very special guest, Rocco Scatty. And we are here at the Red Vein Murder Farm, where we literally barely survived.
It was, I got booped on the nose. It's blood.
Dude, what do I have on my forehead, dude? I think I was
like a triangle thingy.
I still feel really, really weird right now. But the reason we are here is a Halloween Havoc review, is it not, sir?
It is indeed. And we're here to talk about a very special movie that is near and dear in our hearts for this time of year.
It's a newer movie for this time of year. Would you dare say a modern classic, sir?
I would indeed.
Why are we acting?
I don't know! It's the season to be over ridiculous and whatnot because it's Halloween, God.
And that movie is Trick or
Treat.
Treat. Is it Trick or Treat or Trick or Treat?
Trick like apostrophe R and then treat.
We should just leave this in because it's an R, but we all say Trick or Treat.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
I think we have to go back to the hotel because they're looking at us really weird, and we're in Virginia right now. And we're like Northerners, and we're gonna get lynched. So follow us back to the hotel. So here we are, back at the hotel, to talk about the 2007, which actually came out in 2009, movie Trick or Treat. So when did you first see this movie?
Honestly, I saw this movie, like, I want to say about 3 months ago.
For the first time?
Yeah, because I kept hearing about it and everything, and it was just one of those movies I never got around to actually seeing. Not because it was a bad movie or anything like that, just never had the opportunity to, and I'm really glad that I did.
It's funny because I didn't see it until 2015, right? I didn't see it for years. I was like, I'm gonna get around to it, Maybe that's why it's not as much of a classic as it should be. Because as me and you were talking about the other day, we both feel that Sam should be Halloween's official mascot like Santa. Like, this guy should be on everything. Like, people should have like little statues of Sam in their houses. He should be Halloween's ambassador.
Sammy is the literal, like, embodiment of the literal spirit of Halloween.
Which in the fourth story in the movie, well, first of all, we should tell people who haven't seen this movie, Trick or Treat is a 4-part anthology movie. But these 4 stories connect together because all 4 of them take place in the same exact Halloween night. It's a little bit different than the other anthology movies because it adds a nice little special thing to actually see the continuity as it tells its non-linear story, and then it all comes together at the end with Sam.
Yes. And what's fascinating too is that, like, for the eagle-eyed viewer, you know, as you're watching this too, you'll see the other bits and pieces of the story play out in the background.
Yes. I feel, from an actual review standpoint, this is a very well-made, well-crafted, loving ode to the Halloween season, man. They didn't cheese this off. Good acting, good directing, which is really upsetting that it didn't get a full theatrical release in North America. It came out in 2007. They did all these little tiny screenings and stuff like that before it finally hit DVD in 2009. So let's get into the actual stories, right?
Yes.
There's 4 of them. The first one involves Thurman Merman from Bad Santa getting his head chopped off by some psychopathic dad who wants to show his kid how to basically be a psychopath too. I don't care too much for that one.
Nah.
That's the weak one in my opinion.
Honestly, I didn't really care for that aspect of the story either because it was just some psychopath teaching a kid how to be a serial killer like him, which, I mean,
it was a little telegraphed. You like kind of knew where it was going to go within the first couple of minutes of that segment.
Lackluster, to say the least.
Yeah, now moving on to the second segment. The bus driver, the kids, and the ravine. Now this could be my favorite one in the movie.
This one is my favorite story. Out of all the anthology stories, The Ravine is my absolute favorite out
Dude,
of all
it
of them.
is so fucking creepy to see those kids on that bus wearing those cheap plastic masks with a string on the back like the old days, and it's like it has that color correction to look so old and aged when they go back to the old footage of when the kids went over the cliff. Man, that one is the very definition of the Halloween feeling, right?
Absolutely, and especially for the factor of like, when you're watching the story play out, it seems much more like one of those small town urban legend type things. Like, on one night on a spooky Halloween night like this. And
well, you could have that one could have been extended out into a full movie, I think. Done correctly if you put in the end aspect, because here's another connecting thing. In that story, there's a bus driver who drives a bus full of kids over a cliff. Right? Well, basically, that guy comes back in the 4th story, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's hit story number 3.
Which was odd-ish, to say the least.
They got some werewolves in there, and werewolves have never ever been as popular as vampires or zombies or the other monsters. Werewolves get the short end of the stick.
They really do.
But this story I liked, and why did I like this story a lot? My girl Anna Paquin, bro.
Oh, God.
I've always had a mad thing for Anna Paquin, dude. She has a gap in her teeth, and I have a gap in my teeth, right? So I always want to make out with her and see if our gaps are like interlock and we get stuck together like a love embrace for like days. Basically, it's werewolves. Some of the other characters get integrated into that one.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling some type of way about it, and I may need to talk to my psychologist about that.
Well, you should anyway. All right, so let's get to the 4th story, man. Sam, Halloween's guardian, because the bus driver guy is now old from the 2nd story, right? He actually scares kids and takes their candy at his door. He hates Halloween that much. He's like a Halloween Grinch.
Yeah, when you look at Sam as a character, Sam is the literal embodiment of Halloween.
Yes.
So when Sam comes across someone like a Halloween Grinch, they're gonna pay the price.
Oh,
for not
yeah.
only being a ruiner of the Halloween spirit, scaring kids is one thing.
Yeah.
Taking their candy
That's
defeats the whole
another.
purpose.
Like, yeah.
It defeats the whole purpose of Halloween.
Exactly. So Sam comes in,
And he... Okay, let me ask all of you something. How would you feel if you got your ass kicked by an 8-year-old in a little potato sack suit and mopped the floor with you in your own house? To be fair, the ass kicking that old man got, though, I almost kind of felt bad for him, to be honest with you.
A little bit, yeah. And you do get to see what Sam looks like when he takes that burlap sack off his head, man.
Which is so sad.
It's so awesome, dude. Because this movie is the embodiment of everything Halloween. It's like a Christmas story for Halloween, right? You should be watching it every year. Halloween night, sit in your house, turn off all the lights, leave your front door open for the trick-or-treaters to come in and out, and just enjoy the season.
It's one of those movies that you would consider to be mandatory to watch during the Halloween
is mandatory.
season.
So if you haven't seen it, we are saying this is mandatory.
Please
that
go
you
see it.
finally
You're not gonna be
watch
disappointed.
it. So that's it for this installment of Halloween Havoc. We only have one episode left, coming on Halloween night.
Yes, it's going to be glorious.
Until then, guys, I'm old school.
And I'm Rocco.
We're gonna have to pick this up in the morning. Maybe some friends come by the hotel, and we're just like straight grubbing. So, reviews still coming, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's still on its way. Just give us a minute.
Jesus Christ! Only me gets chased by crazy masked maniacs! Jeez. Oh man, come on, give me a break! Who are you, man?
It's the season to be spooky, homie.
Boop! What a twist!
Our fire's burning bright, pumpkin faces in the night. I remember Halloween day.
Purple Rain. No. Sign of the Times. Definitely not. The Batman soundtrack. Throw it.
Happy Halloween, freaks and and geeks. It is October 31st, the night we waited for all year.
The best year ever!
Here it is, guys, the final episode of Halloween Havoc 2018. I am the old ghoul.
And I'm Rocco.
Now, I had a hard time thinking about what movie I wanted to finish on for Halloween because I expanded this whole month to include those quick kill review videos that I never planned on doing. So as I started to think, what movie did I want to talk about?
And that movie being?
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I love this movie. Have you ever even seen this?
I feel like I have, but I honestly don't remember a damn thing about it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say now.
Halloween 3, we are losing our light. Look at this, guys. All right, I think we're gonna have to change locations from the graveyard to someplace else to get into the Halloween treats. We're in the car!
Where else would you find us?
Halloween 3! He's never seen it! Ever!
At least I'm like 99.9% sure.
Okay.
No, I have not seen it.
All right, imagine a movie, right, with that pure 80s style filmmaking. A really bizarre shot out there, you can only write it in the 80s type of script. Then throw in Tom Atkins from Night of the Creeps and his mustache. Everything works about this movie, but guess what didn't work? They took Michael Myers out and called it Halloween 3. Have you ever actually heard the reasoning why it's not a Michael Myers movie?
Actually, no, I don't think I have.
Well, what it was, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this story 100 times. We'll just hit the high points here. What had happened was, John Carpenter didn't even want to do Halloween 2 at all. The studio kind of made him because it was like contractual and he wanted to make other movies, so he made it. So they said, let's make Halloween 3. He said, I don't want to put Michael Myers in it. I want to make a different Halloween movie every year with an original story.
Okay.
Kind of like how American Horror Story does it now. So basically what John wanted to do was turn Halloween into an anthology series. It came out, audiences despised it. I mean, it's a really weird, quirky movie to begin with, but they hated the fact that Michael Myers wasn't in it.
I was gonna say, to be fair, you are taking out one of the big icons that made Halloween.
See, the weird thing is, at the time, back then, there was no internet, right? Whereas like now, before a movie comes out, we know everything about it that there could possibly be. Back then, trailers were a little bit misleading. So when people saw the trailer for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, they really thought it was a Michael Myers movie. So when they saw that he wasn't in there, they got pissed. They got actually genuinely upset.
So real quick though, can you just nutshell Halloween 3 for me?
I can, right? It's like the classic story I think Goosebumps did. There's been a million variations where your Halloween mask somehow takes over you. In this one, a warlock, right, who feels that the Halloween season, the season of the witch itself, Sam Hain, has been taken over and commercialized. So he wants to set it right. So this warlock owns a toy company who makes these masks, and the company's called Silver Shamrock. When you put the masks on, okay, there's a little button on the back. Now, there's television commercials running to sell you the masks, and they're talking about this big giveaway come Halloween night. So everybody gather around the TV. Oh, it's funny enough too, because the big giveaway is right after Halloween, the original movie plays. The Jamie Lee Curtis actual movie. Like during the movie, you'll see on the TV set that they're running commercials for Halloween that's gonna be on Halloween night.
All right, that's pretty nifty though.
It is, though.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a nice
ahead of
little
its game. Real quick, what happens is, so all the kids start buying the masks. The commercials are running like crazy. Now, Tom Atkins is a doctor. He comes across some weird things that are happening with some people who had escaped the Silver Shamrock factory. Okay? So he gets wrapped up with this girl who's looking for her father. He beds her in 1 second, which is crazy because it's almost like they like meet, and 2 seconds later he's like, should I sleep in the other room? She's like, you don't have to. Boom! He's all over her. Like, it's
only the 80s!
I mean, it's lightning fast. So anyway, so Tom Atkins and the girl, they find the whole thing, right? They go to the factory, they find out about the warlock captures him. He says, at 9 o'clock. Oh, it's the guy from RoboCop, the guy who runs OCP, is the warlock at Halloween 3.
Oh, that's so
and he's like,
oh,
that's
shit,
right,
my voice.
tonight's at 9. All of these children's heads will explode into snakes and spiders. And he does this testing, right, where he shows Tom Atkins a room of this family, and he does it to the kid in the mask. And the kid's face melts in the mask, and spiders and snakes come out, and then like the snakes that come out of the mask attack the parents. And like the parents wind up like dying, dude. And
that's hardcore. Holy hell.
It is. It actually, well, see, it's not like horrific. See, this is the weird thing. Halloween's a slasher movie.
Right.
This is a supernatural movie, is what this is. You know what I mean? So basically, in the end, I really don't want to give it away, but it ain't a 100% happy ending here. I think I'm gonna say that. Now, tell me how bizarre that sounds. Oh, and even throwing the fact that the Warlock has robots. He's got robots, guys, right? His whole army.
Well, to be fair, it is the guy from RoboCop, right?
But no, for real. But tell me that doesn't sound insane.
That sounds wild. You know what? I'm gonna go home and watch it. Because that's how I do Halloween, is I scare myself to death.
Well, the one reason why I wanted to talk about this movie is, when it came out, it was an utter failure. Complete collapse. Failure, made no money. It almost doomed the franchise. They had to bring Michael Myers back, dooming us to 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, 2 Rob Zombies until they got it right finally. If Halloween 3 had been a hit, we never would have gotten another Michael Myers movie. We would have just had 1 and 2. But Halloween 3 over the past couple years has really, because of the nostalgia of He-Man, the 80s, Transformers, the Goonies, right? People started delving into all the 80s movies that are out there. And people started to realize, hey, this one Halloween movie is so 80s out, so funny, that if you just look at it as truly what it is, it's a standalone. Even the writer took his name off of it, and he didn't like the way that they were horrifying it. He was like, we should just call it Season of the Witch, and ditch the Halloween 3 thing entirely, and just make this sick-ass Tom Atkins horror supernatural movie. Studio said, nope. People need to have a name so they know what to do, and all it did was backfire in their face,
You
man.
could have just went with Season of the Witch. Okay.
Well, don't you like different sometimes? Don't you prefer when something doesn't retread the same thing? Think about how bold that is, though. To ditch your franchise, keep the title, and try to give something to people that would be a yearly, every year on Halloween, they were going to do this. Do you know how sick that was? You're guaranteed a Halloween movie. Every year it's going to be different, made by the same team. It's like, they finally got it with American Horror Story. But I mean, back then, John Carpenter, John did not like the reception. So do this. I know a lot of people have seen this movie in my age bracket because it was always on TV, but you might not have paid attention to it, or you might have watched it when you were younger. Go back and watch it again now. This is Halloween! Scary.
Halloween. Halloween.
Turn it off.
Happy, happy Halloween.
Stop it.
Happy, happy Halloween. Silver Shamrock.
Hey, next year, can you actually do a review on one of my movies? Please? Oh my god!